Good morning, Excellencies, UN correspondents, ladies and gentlemen. The Republic of South Sudan welcomes the resumption of negotiation with the Republic of Sudan and expresses appreciation to the African Union High Implementation Panel under the leadership of President Thabo Mbeki for convening the talks, the first round of which took place from May 30th to June 8th. The Republic of South Sudan is satisfied that the parties agreed to a plan of action to fully implement UN Security Council Resolution 2046 and the African Union roadmap. We also take note of Sudan's withdrawal from all its army from the Abyei area, as well as the withdrawal of most of its police forces from Abyei. We nonetheless note with dismay the continued presence in the Abyei area of the so-called Sudan's oil police, which we believe to be unnecessary and inconsistent with the term of the 20 June 2011 Agreement on Abyei as well as UN Security Council Resolution 2046. While welcoming last week's talks, South Sudan expresses its regret at the suspension of the discussion on 8 June following the parties' failure to agree on the establishment of a safe, demilitarized border zone. Discussions in Addis Ababa last week focused on the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2046, and in particular, the issue of border security. The parties had in fact agreed in principle to establish a demilitarized border zone in July 2011. But prior to the resumption of talks on 30 May of this year, had yet to agree the precise geographical contours of this zone. The African Union presented a proposed map of the zone to the parties in November 2011. But it is noteworthy that Khartoum has vehemently rejected this map, voicing even more serious concerns. Last week, South Sudan proposed the creation of a more extensive demilitarized border zone, including all areas disputed between the two parties. Demilitarizing all disputed areas would enable the parties to begin final demarcation of the 2,000-kilometer long border in an atmosphere of greater security. South Sudan further proposed that final demarcation of the shared border begin immediately upon activation of the safe demilitarized border zone. This is because the safe demilitarized border zone is, by agreement between two parties, a temporary security mechanism to be activated while we establish normal relations between the two states. Both sides accept the safe demilitarized border zone does not in any way establish the final border between the two states. Once the border has been demilitarized, it is up to the parties to demarcate the final border in accordance with existing agreements. South Sudan also called for the parties to refer any disputed areas of the border to binding international arbitration should they fail to reach agreement by the 2nd August deadline established by the Security Council Resolution 2046. The government of the Republic of South Sudan strongly believes that the parties have practically exhausted the option of negotiation as a means of resolving ownership of disputed and claimed areas. Following 6 years of continuous but fruitless negotiation on the matter, the parties also discussed Abyei, where we continue to disagree over the leadership of the Abyei Legislative Council. South Sudan is prepared to accept Angok Dinka, member of the NCP, at the head of this body. But Sudan has only proposed Misiria candidate. This completely undermines the prior understandings reached between the parties on this issue. Despite these challenges, we remain fully committed to the negotiations. We look forward to resuming discussions on the safe demilitarized zone and other matters on June 21st, following further consultation with the African Union team. As we know, in the deliberation of the Security Council this morning, South Sudan, as the rest of the human family, have a right to peace and security. In order for them to have peace and prosperity, it is with this regard that the Republic of South Sudan seeks support of the United Nations Security Council members for an enhanced demilitarized zone, and as it would provide greater guarantee for security. The Republic of South Sudan further requests the UN Security Council to ensure that the timelines that have been set out in the Resolution 2046 are respected and are implemented in good faith. Thank you. I can get thanks questions.
Sorry, I wanted to ask you, Pagan Amum, your chief negotiator, has said that there have been continuing bombardments by Sudan of South Sudan. Can you give some detail of where these have taken place and when they took place, and also the situation of South Sudanese still, quote, stranded in Sudan? What should be done, and what can the UN do in that regard?
The Sudan armed forces is still bombarding some areas in our territory, especially in northern Bahr al-Ghazal, in localities called Wanglit. And that is still also having some aerial bombardment in other areas in Lake States and as well as in Unity States.
Okay. And what about the stranded South Sudanese that are still in Sudan? And also there's some in Israel that I've heard that are trying to be deported back. What's your government doing for your citizens outside of the country?
We still have some people living in the Sudan, that is true, and many of them have already been brought back by the assistance of the IOM. Thousands of them has been flown back to South Sudan last week. Thank you.
What do you want the Security Council to do to stop the bombardments? What kind of pressure do you want them to put on Sudan?
We would like to see the United Security Council strongly condemn the continuous bombardment of the Sudan armed forces to the territories of South Sudan, and request Sudan to cease hostilities and resume talks in good faith.
Did you consider asking for a no-fly zone or
for the time being, we are negotiating the demilitarized border zone. Let us succeed in having this buffer zone and respect it.
One other question. You still have LRA groups running around South Sudan, or have they all gone to the Congo?
For the time being, they are in the neighboring country, Central African Republic. We don't have any presence of LRA inside South Sudan. And thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the wake of the statement read out by my colleague from the Republic of South Sudan. Okay, my PR is coming. Okay, yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Council was briefed, as you have heard, by the Special Representative of the Secretary General, Mr. Haile Menkarios, and he said that the previous session of negotiations was positive and there is progress. And he confirmed that both parties have confirmed that they are going to meet again next Thursday. Mr. Haile Menkarios had illustrated a very important point to all members of the Security Council when he said, or when he commented about the map provided by Mr. Thabo Mbeki to the Council. He said that map doesn't show the final status of the disputed areas, and he has emphasized that the final status is yet to be negotiated by the concerned parties. I would like also to illustrate that from our part, we have written a letter to Mr. Mbeki on time when he produced that map. We had expressed one reservation on that map, and the reservation regarding the location of what is known as the area 14 miles south of Bahr al-Arab, including that area in the map of South Sudan. That has been conveyed to Mr. Mbeki timely. It has been also conveyed to the Security Council, but we were very forthcoming during the last session of negotiations when both parties embarked on the discussion on the safe demilitarized zone, which is considered as the crux of all security issues to be discussed between the two countries. Actually, what retarded a little bit the progress on this aspect is the intransigent position of South of Sudan when they produced a map which contravenes all the previous agreements reached with them. And here I would like to explain that in the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, both parties agreed that the borderline of 1st January 1956 is the basis for the international border between Sudan and South Sudan in case South Sudan decides decided to secede. And they signed that, and later on, during the transitional period, there was a joint technical committee established from both parties to demarcate the borders. Again, the South agreed that this technical committee would work on the basis of the 1st January 1956 border. To negate and not to